WrestleFred Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
So, I was recording my episode and I talked about the releases and I started talking about WrestleMania and I've gotten to talking about Seth Rollins and Cesaro and my computer shuts off. I get the blue screen of death saying that we ran into a problem. We have to restart your computer. And in the middle of me motherfucking talking. So if I sound a little weird, that's because I am now talking off my tablet. And it is motherfucking frustrating that when your computer decides to just be an asshole. Hi everyone. This is episode 109 of the WrestleFred Podcast. 109B, even though you'll see that there is not going to be a 109A, because my computer just decides to just die. So I'm going to start over from what I was saying before the computer just decides to just go wah-wah on me. I was saying today is April 15th, and this is one of the dark days of wrestling where WWE announced their cuts. A lot of times we are surprised by cuts, sometimes we're not surprised by cuts. The biggest one that surprised a lot of people today was Samoa Joe. And I was a little confused by that because Samoa Joe can definitely have brung in money for WWE. He is very good as far as cutting promos and the feuds that he had, especially his feuds with AJ Styles and Brock Lesnar. A lot of people thought that he would be the one to defeat Brock Lesnar for the title, which I feel as though that was something that WWE definitely missed the mark on. I mean, a lot of people can definitely remember a lot of great moments with Samoa Joe as far as his promos and as far as the thing, especially when he had that sit down, the side by side interview with Brock Lesnar, how like very aggressive he was when he was going against AJ Styles, talking about Wendy and everything like that. It was definitely money's worth. I know he was injured and he was good on commentary, but he was definitely missed in the ring. So I would love to know the story behind why he got released. Because it's not like, I mean, you can't say you didn't have anything for him to do, because he definitely could have been one of the people that would have gone after the title on Raw. I mean, you could have put him in SmackDown. Oh my gosh, can you imagine him going against Roman Reigns today? The Tribal Chief versus Samoa Joe? The type of feud you would have had, the promos, it would definitely been one of the best feuds of the year. I can say that with confidence. They also came to terms with Billie Kay and Peyton Royce. Billie Kay was announced first, and I felt bad for her because I was like, you split up her and her best friend as far as them being a tag team. You put Peyton Royce with other people. Then you put Billie Kay with other people. Then you released Billie Kay. But Peyton Royce has been released as well. Mickie James was released, which I was a bit surprised about. We did recently see her at WrestleMania. And I thought that she would have more of like a Legends contract. She could do a lot more behind the scenes as far as helping out the women's division. But I guess they didn't have anything for her. Chelsea Green was released as well. I read that she was injured. Maybe they didn't have much for her since she was injured. Tucker was released, which I'm not surprised about because since he split up with Otis as far as Heavy Machinery, they really didn't have much to do. When he was trying to be a heel, it really wasn't clicking for me. Kalisto, I remember the days when he was very popular, especially when he was with Sin Cara before he joined the Lucha House Party. Bo Dallas, which I guess would shock a lot of people who had the theory that Alexa Bliss was actually working with Bo Dallas, which I would have figured would have been pretty cool if it was actually Bo Dallas as the quote unquote darker entity that she's been working with, besides the Fiend. Like I always say, 9 times out of 10, the family and friends, as far as wrestlers go, normally have the best feuds. And it would have been very cool to see Bo Dallas in kind of like an evil, like dark type of gimmick, because we always seen him as, Mr. Believe and everything like that, and he was very uplifting. So it would definitely spoke volumes if he was able to pull off the complete opposite of that gimmick. Wesley Blake was also released as well. Last time we saw him, he was one of the henchmen of Baron Corbin. Before that, he was in the Forgotten Sons in NXT, and it really seemed like they didn't have much for him as well. And then Mojo Rawley was released, which surprised a lot of people because they thought he was released last year, including myself. I thought he was released last year, especially the fact that, they really didn't have too much for him to do. And of course, now that they got released, it is the 90-day clause. So it'll be around July where we'll see where everyone ends up. I know a lot of people are saying AEW. I feel as though AEW would be right for maybe Samoa Joe. If they are able to if they're able to put him in the right position, I should say. I would love to see him cut promos against Kenny Omega, especially him versus Jon Moxley, him versus Eddie Kingston. Woo! That promo versus promo, chef's kiss. My issue with AEW is that they have a lot of people. I forgot how many people is on their roster, but I didn't realize they have a lot of damn wrestling time, not wrestling time, but they have a lot of people as far as to use on TV, because you got to think that they have AEW Dynamite, which is 2 hours long. They have AEW Dark, which is 2 hours long, which I tend to check out from time to time. And then they have now AEW Evolution, which I only checked out a little bit. I'm not the biggest fan of Paul White on commentary. Maybe he's just like breaking in or something, but it's not really gelling with me. But I saw on YouTube that one video of AEW Elevation, which is on Mondays, was 3 hours long. And if it's the same as AEW Dark, normally AEW Dark, it'll have like match after match after match. And normally it'll be like 11 to 14 matches that AEW would put out. And that's a lot of wrestlers that you have. And I know that they work with different like companies and stuff like that. And so they're using a lot of the indie wrestlers who aren't really tied, who are free agents, not really tied to contracts and stuff like that. But still, that's a lot of people. So I'm looking up how many people are in AEW, and from what I see, I see 100. And I'm not exactly sure if how true that number is, but I see 100, which is a lot of people. And I don't want AEW to turn around and start signing every single person that's released from WWE, because all that's going to happen is it's going to turn into WCW 2.0, where like half the roster is WWE wrestlers. And you'll put pressure on yourself. Tony Khan will be putting pressure on himself to feature these WWE superstars because they have the, they have the name to them to try to draw in viewers, while meanwhile they're not building up their own stars. I don't mind when it's situations like I keep saying with Sting, where Sting is being used to put over Darby Allin. Like, he's not going against Darby Allin and taking the title and all the other crap like we have seen before. But he is there to kind of bring attention to Darby Allin by kind of showing like, hey, Darby Allin is just like me. And if you like me, you'll like Darby Allin. It's kind of like the upsell type of situation with them. And I don't mind, I use this example of Chris Jericho, that without Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara wouldn't be who he is today. We would not know Sammy Guevara if it wasn't for Chris Jericho. And I already knew about Santana Ortiz when they were in LAX. I already knew about them, but there are people who probably didn't know too much about the indies who didn't know who they are. So I give it to them as far as with that, but for them to continuously bring in more and more people, let's just stop. Interesting fact. This is the first WrestleMania since 1998 to not feature at least one of the following: Shawn Michaels, Triple H, or The Undertaker. And I got that off of Wikipedia, which it's a bit crazy. It was pretty cool to see the crowd again. Even though I was a little confused at it, I highly doubt there wasn't a rule to wear the mask, but it definitely wasn't being enforced. And WWE kept cutting the camera to people who were in the crowd who weren't wearing their mask. Now I know that there were social distancing and everything in the upper levels of the stadium. When I was looking at tickets just to see the prices, it came with a warning that you have to purchase your ticket, a certain amount of tickets, that you will be in a pod, quote unquote. You can't give your ticket away to anyone, and everyone who you buy a ticket for has to be in your quote unquote household, which of course people weren't doing. You're buying a ticket for your damn friends and stuff like that. And you've seen that if you were on social media, you see people taking pictures and you see the cutouts all around them and stuff like that. But once you get to around the ring, I don't know if they were well, no, because there was a fan that was sitting in the front row who normally sits in the front rows of wrestling shows. But I was wondering if if it was something special with the people who are around the ring or something, or if they were just regular fans. For them to be that close together without the mask and, not social distancing, I just really hope that everyone is safe and that they're not spreading the fucking virus anymore, and it's not resulting in major sickness and death and stuff like that. It was good to see the crowd, but I don't want it to be at the expense of other people's lives. I will say it that way. It was very good hearing the crowd when they brought out Titus O'Neil and Hulk Hogan. The crowd was booing Hulk Hogan, and then they started to boo Hulk Hogan every time he said something. They tried to pipe in crowd noise, and it kind of reminded me of what I remembered when I was reading on Reddit, that WWE doesn't make the show for the live audience. They make it for the people at home. The live audience is basically like a studio audience. The only thing is they can't make the crowd, clap and cheer when they want to. So they're piping in this crowd noise. Overall, night 1 was a hell of a lot better than night 2. My issue with night 2 was some of the finishes to the matches. If we had gotten a better finish to some of these matches, night 2 would be just as good as night 1. And I love the 2-night format. It's a lot easier to digest WrestleMania in 4 hours versus 7 hours like we used to get, especially when the show was ending at like 1 o'clock in the morning, a few WrestleManias ago. And plus, especially with the crowd, you have the crowd there. And it used to be very frustrating because the crowd would be like very hyperactive and stuff like that in the beginning of WrestleMania. And then by the end of the show, they're fucking exhausted because they're standing up, they're cheering, your voice is hoarse after 6, 7 hours, especially the brave souls that show up when the pre-show starts. Because remember, pre-show used to be 2 hours long at a certain point, and then you had a 5 hour WrestleMania, and then sometimes it would go longer because matches go over or they decide to add in promos and stuff like that. A lot easier to do it with this 2 night setup. And not only that, WWE has to really think there's 2 times the tickets. You sit there and say, we're going to do this over 2 nights, and you decide to charge $2,000. Well, instead of a fan paying $2,000 for 7 hours, they're paying $4,000 if they want to do night 1 and night 2. So instead of them loving to say, oh, we have 100,000 fans, you can sit there and say, we had 200,000 fans for WrestleMania such and such. And somebody tell that to Vince. That'll convince him to do a night 1 and a night 2. And plus, it'll be fans who will just buy tickets for night 1. It'll be fans who will buy tickets for night 2, knowing that, the bigger main event will be that night. Fans will buy for night 1 so they can get back home before, if they decide to be crazy enough to go to work on Monday. Or people who will buy for both nights and make it a full, like a big extravaganza. I don't know why we can't do it that way. But like I said, it was so much easier to watch WrestleMania with night 1 and night 2. The crowd was hyped throughout the whole night. But yeah. And it was a lot of fun. Like I had mentioned, my birthday was on Friday. So it was the Friday, I mean, not Friday, it was the WrestleMania SmackDown episode, and it was WrestleMania Night 1, WrestleMania Night 2. I had good food. I hope everyone had good food because this was basically our Super Bowl celebration. But let me get into the matches here. So we started out with a bang. We had Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. This was very hard-hitting. A lot of power moves between both men. There was 3 Future Shock DDTs that was done. They did a lot of shots to the crowd, seeing the crowd being hyped and stuff like that. My only issue with this match was the end where Drew McIntyre was going for the Claymore and MVP distracted him, quote unquote. And you see Drew McIntyre look, but it wasn't as fluid because he like hesitated, he like looked, and then he turned and then tried to go for the Claymore. Of course, he missed. And then Bobby Lashley was able to take advantage, put the Hurt Lock on Drew McIntyre, and Drew McIntyre passes out. I felt as though they could have done something else besides the whole distraction. Spot. You could be bold enough to have Bobby Lashley beat Drew McIntyre right out. Have Drew McIntyre maybe break out of a Hurt Lock to show how strong he is. Maybe have Bobby Lashley, start attacking like the shoulder and neck region, something like that, to kind of give that storyline, and then have Bobby Lashley put the Hurt Lock on Drew McIntyre again, and just kind of keep doing that throughout the match until Drew McIntyre finally wears down and passes out. Could have easily done something like that. But I didn't really like the whole distraction spot. I would give the match a B plus. That distraction spot I really didn't like that. Because I felt like it was a cop out. I figured WWE, once I saw that Bobby Lashley won, the way that he did, that they want to keep Drew McIntyre in the title picture, which you could still do. You can still do that if he got beat outright. I mean, how many times we've seen people lose horribly and still got a title shot? Like I always say, wins and losses do not matter in WWE. Just dominance and TV time. Because how many times we see people lose a match and then get a rematch right away on Raw? I mean, we saw that happen this past week, for crying out loud. Next up after that, we had the Gauntlet match for the spot to get a shot at the tag team titles. We had Naomi and Lana who came out first, and then we had Carmella and Billie Kay. I really didn't like the beginning of this match. The spots, it was very sloppy. A lot of miscommunication with the spots and everything, and it was just very sloppy. It was horrible. After Naomi and Lana was eliminated, and then out came the Riot Squad. After that, the Riot Squad came out with their Birds of Prey gear, which I thought was cool. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose came out after Lana and Naomi came out. And poor Mandy Rose, she was such a good sport about it. She slipped on the ramp, obviously, because it was raining very hard during WrestleMania. Kind of go on a tangent. I completely forgot to mention this. I mentioned it when I first recorded. Sorry. It was a big rain delay for a whole hour. First time that WrestleMania was delayed like this due to a rain delay. And it actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because they were forced to kind of go on the fly and have some wrestlers cut promos. And of course, if you have someone just cut a promo out of nowhere, there's no time to write it out. And we got some really good promos from Drew McIntyre, and especially a really good promo from Kevin Owens. And it just goes to show, all you have to do is just let people cut their own promo, give them a little bit of creative freedom. They'd be able to, do enough to make the feuds more exciting. Because I was a little more excited for the feud between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn after Kevin Owens cut such a great promo. But getting back to this tag team match, Mandy Rose was such a good sport about her slip and fall. It doesn't compare to Titus O'Neil, of course. Her slip was due to rain, something out of her control. Because WWE didn't put down a non-slip material until after she slipped, whereas though Titus O'Neil tripped. So, Titus O'Neil still takes the crown of that. So after that, Mandy and Dana Brooke was eliminated. No, I have this mixed up. It was the Riot Squad. Yeah, the Riot Squad who came out, and they were out in their Birds of Prey gear. I have this stuff written down. I was writing and watching at the same time. Sorry about that. The Riot Squad came out, and they came out with the Birds of Prey get up. The match gets a little bit better. It was still a bit sloppy, but the Riot Squad eliminated Billie Kay and Carmella, and then out comes Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose. And that's when we saw Mandy slip. Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke look very much alike. I am still slightly disturbed that Dana Brooke lost her muscle mass. But, it is what it is. She's getting her TV time versus when she was, more muscular and she wasn't getting TV time. So, it is what it is. But I really loved when she had her muscle mass. But I guess they want her to look more feminine. But now she looks just like Mandy Rose. The Riot Squad eliminates Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose. And then out comes Natalya and Tamina. And Tamina was getting a little bit of cheer, The match definitely gets better from here. A lot more spots. Tamina getting her time to shine. And she had the crowd behind her, which, I was happy about. Because Tamina's been in WWE for 11 years. And the only title she's held was the 24/7 championship. So I was pretty, excited for her to, she's getting the pop. She was getting chants and stuff like that. The crowd was chanting for her and stuff like that. And Tamina and Natalya won. So I figured whoever wins this tag team turmoil match should be the ones that will get the title. So when I saw Natalya and Tamina win the match, I was happy for Tamina that she would finally get her first championship. Which is a shame, the fact she's been in WWE for 11 years and she hasn't gotten not even a single title reign, except for the 24/7 championship. After that, we had Cesaro. Oh, to give a grade, for that women's tag team match, I I'm pretty harsh with my grades. I'm giving it a D, because it didn't get better until the end, but that beginning of that match really like ruined the tag team match for me. After that, we had Cesaro versus Seth Rollins, which of course we all knew was going to be a really good match. Bit of, I was pretty, um, I was pretty upset when Jerry the King Lawler mentioned, I think it was Jerry, he mentioned that the fans were starting to get into Cesaro, which is of course not true because we all remember all of the Cesaro sections that was going on in previous WrestleManias. I remember at WrestleMania 30 that Cesaro was getting a little bit more popular, especially when he was supposed to be teaming up with Paul Heyman. I remember I popped for that in the crowd. And that was motherfucking 7 years ago. So people has been on Cesaro. It's just that WWE just started to get into Cesaro. And I was very happy that he was finally getting his spot. This is his first singles match on the main card. He did have a singles match on WrestleMania, but it was during the pre-show against Drew Gulak. So I was very happy that Cesaro finally got his time to shine. But this match was awesome. Cesaro, a lot of people thought that Cesaro was going to do 37 swings in honor of WrestleMania 37, which he didn't do. He did only 23 swings. He did the UFO swing, which was completely awesome. He did it with no hands and stuff like that, just completely showing off, which he should have every right to do. There was the spot where Seth Rollins went to do the curb stomp and it turned into the uppercut. Seth Rollins coming out with a pedigree that got a really big pop. He also did a corkscrew splash, which was crazy. I mean, Seth Rollins was pulling out motherfucking moves that we haven't seen from him. And how long has Seth Rollins been in WWE? And he's just pulling out these offensive moves. But this was a great match. I give it an A. This was a great match. And, Cesaro won. And I was very happy that Cesaro won. Of course, he got a big pop for it. But this was a really good match. Next up, we had AJ Styles and Omos versus The New Day for the WWE Raw Tag Team Championship. Of course, the match had AJ Styles taking the beating and stuff like that. The New Day was sitting there trolling Omos. He came out, of course, with his smooth outfit. He had a jacket on. He had on his chain. I was like, of course he doesn't have on wrestling gear. I mean, for what? I kind of figured that he was going to have the whole big man move sets where he does, moves and he does it very powerful. We saw Kofi twerking and stuff like that. And then we finally get the tag from Omos, and he was doing, I mean, he slammed the shit out of Kofi Kingston. Bless Kofi Kingston for selling the hell out of it. But a lot of people was very impressed with Omos. I guess they kind of remember his days in NXT where he wasn't really that good. He wasn't on NXT TV. He did a lot of house shows, and I saw a video of him at one of the house shows where he tried to kind of wrestle, but he was like overacting, doing a lot of rookie mistakes. But he was good here. He did a lot of moves. I don't know. I maybe I'm used to, because now we see a lot of, because we see people like Undertaker and Kane and stuff like that, the big guys who are a little more agile. Omos kind of has the big powerful moves, but is a bit slower. It kind of reminds me a bit of the Great Khali. I'm not really saying that as far as like disrespect or anything like that, but we're in times now where we see the big guys, but we see the big guys know how to move around pretty well. Like I said, like Undertaker and Kane, definitely. So when I see a big guy like this, you kind of have a certain expectation. But I'm gonna give this a B. I love the fact that, first of all, AJ Styles is now a Grand Slam champion. I don't think they mentioned that. And Omos gets his debut match at WrestleMania for a title, and he wins the title. A lot of people make comparisons for when it was Braun Strowman versus, what was the kid's name? Nathan, or something like that. I forgot the kid's name. Who won a WWE Championship at WrestleMania. But yeah, it was different. I would like to see more of Omos, to see what more he can do, especially now that he is Tag Team Championship. Let's see where it goes from here. After that, we had Braun Strowman. Oh, first of all, the ending of the New Day versus AJ Omos. AJ doing the phenomenal forearm off the shoulders of Omos was a pretty good spot as well. After that, we had Shane and Braun Strowman in a cage match. This match was better than I expected. I thought this match was going to be complete trash. But it was the thing that I liked about this match is that it was different from other cage matches. There were things in this cage match that we haven't seen before. We saw Shane McMahon almost going down the cage to win, and Braun Strowman ripped the cage apart and grabbed Shane McMahon and brought him back into the cage. There was the spot where, of course, he threw Shane McMahon off the top of the cage. And, you got to give props to Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon is a McMahon. He definitely reminds us that he's a McMahon whenever he shows up around this time of the year. But Shane really doesn't have to do these type of spots, these crazy behind spots where he is, getting flipped off the top of a cage onto the mat below, the ring below. And he really doesn't need to do these type of spots. But, yeah, it's just Shane McMahon being crazy Shane McMahon from yesteryear. But Braun Strowman wins this match, which we kind of figured was going to happen. It's all about, Braun Strowman fighting for the people who has been bullied. He's fighting for all of us, which is, that's all good and all, but, you're a big guy. You're the monster among men. Don't think that you would be bullied by a 50-year-old guy. But, that's just WWE for you. After that, we get the tag team match, Bad Bunny and Damian Priest versus The Miz and John Morrison. Oh my gosh, Bad Bunny. I wasn't the biggest fan of his music. I just know him for that one song, and then from the commercial with him and Snoop Dogg, and he goes, "No, it's Playa." But oh my gosh, this motherfucker made me a fan. I didn't, see, the thing with celebrities, and I said this when Pat McAfee was doing his thing in NXT, these celebrities really don't have to do a lot. They can come in, do a few moves in the ring, say that, they made their moment, they checked off something off the bucket list, childhood dream and stuff like that. But whenever you give us more than that, where you are performing better than motherfuckers who've been signed to this company for years, I'm looking at you, Lacey Evans. It blew me away with Bad Bunny. And Bad Bunny was the one who took the brunt of the match, and it was Damian Priest who got the hot tag, which I thought it would be the other way around. Normally the celebrity would be the one who get the hot tag or something like that, and they get their little moment to shine. But oh my gosh, I was so shocked at this. Kudos to everyone in there. It was people who was upset that The Miz was put into this match. And I felt as though actually this is a compliment to The Miz. The Miz and John Morrison have the job of making sure that Bad Bunny doesn't get injured and that Bad Bunny looks like $1,000,000. Bad Bunny is worth how much money? Okay. How much do he have to talk to his damn publicist or his agent or whoever or the record label that it's not crazy for him to go into a wrestling ring and wrestle? Because we see injuries happen. Asuka lost teeth a couple of weeks ago. Let's not forget that. How many times we've seen concussions and, as far as people getting injured and needing surgeries and stuff like that. So, it's not really as simple as a celebrity coming in and just saying, yeah, I want to do this. And everybody says, okay, yeah, sure. So it's actually a compliment to The Miz that he was the one put into this match. WWE trusted him enough to be put in a position where he will not injure Bad Bunny, and he would basically look just as good as Bad Bunny. It was a very fun match. Bad Bunny, doing a waist lock and an arm drag, and then it just gets crazier and crazier, and the fans were into it. First of all, Bad Bunny doing a Canadian destroyer, and kudos to John Morrison as well. I forgot who I read trained Bad Bunny. I figured it was Damian Priest, but I read it was two other people as well that was training him. But definitely kudos to everyone involved. I kind of figured that Damian Priest helped him out some, since they always put over the story that they grew up in the same area and had the same type of lifestyle and stuff. But yeah, oh my goodness, that was a crazy match. That was a crazy match, and I think Bad Bunny even did a Hurricanrana. But that was a crazy good fun match. I gave that match an A. Definitely one of the best celebrity matches in WrestleMania history. Ronda Rousey is right up there. And then Bad Bunny even sold. Normally wrestlers, and especially celebrities, they don't really know how to sell as good. But my goodness, Bad Bunny really impressed me. I was shocked. Um, and I'm sure a lot of wrestling fans are like, you can come back at any time. You can come back every WrestleMania. We can call it the bunny streak or something. But yeah, that was a fun match. I definitely give it an A. And it puts Damian Priest in a good position as well. Loved Damian Priest's entrance, first of all. And then he was wearing like this Shawn Michaels S type of gear, except for it was purple. Definitely was a very good match. And then we get to Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And it was announced the day before that it was going to be a main event. And I had said this before, and I'm gonna clarify because I felt like I said it incorrectly in the previous episode. It wasn't built up as a main event, but I knew this was going to be a pretty good match. Unfortunately, WWE didn't build this up correctly because they wanted to bring in the tag team championship and they wanted to do the whole, opponents put together as a tag team that they love to do. But this match was so personal. I cried during the intro, when they were doing the introductions. First of all, they fucked up. Okay, WWE fucked up pretty hard. Bianca Belair's entrance, it said EST of NXT. She has been NXT in a little bit. Michael Cole, of course, botching the ending of the match. But Sasha Banks, I don't know how to really feel about her gear. Like, I liked her gear, but I didn't like her gear. It was just so different from what she normally wears. Some people were saying that it was an homage to other wrestlers, which I kind of saw, but I didn't really see. And I don't know if she came out with the what was behind the gear. At first, I thought it was like Matrix-like because I saw her with the coat, and then I saw her hair, and then I saw the colors of her outfit, and I was a little confused. Some people were saying that it was an homage to Alicia Fox and Naomi and other African American wrestlers as well, which I kind of saw, but I didn't really see. But I figured to just wait for Sasha Banks to just say it herself. Um, they did the introductions. The crowd was so into this. And you see Sasha Banks held it in the best she could. Bianca Belair was like tearing up. That's when I started tearing. Like I was tearing up when Sasha Banks was coming out. And then I like started crying during the intro because it was just so special. And then Michael Cole sitting there saying this is the first time in history that two black women are, facing each other for the title in the main event of WrestleMania. So kudos for them to actually just, recognize that moment and let people have that moment. It was very special to me. Like I said, it's not that as much representation in wrestling. We always talked about, African Americans who haven't held the main WWE championship, people like Mark Henry and stuff like that. And, that's why Kofi Mania came about. And I know a lot of people like to point out The Rock, but The Rock is half Samoan, half black. He is one of the people of color to have held the main belt, but not someone who is, 100% black who held the belt. And, it's just that double-edged sword as with women as well. Women haven't been treated as equals until a few years ago. And then on top of that, it wasn't that many moments to really shine for women of color. Sasha Banks definitely is in the record books with a lot of firsts, but this is the first time that there is a one-on-one match on WrestleMania of two black women. And it was very special to me as a black woman growing up. I love watching wrestling. I was always the odd one out of my group because I'm a tomboy, and I love watching wrestling. I love watching football. I'd rather be at home playing video games and stuff like that and watch wrestling, even to this day. And I've always been teased about it. And seeing this type of moment, it felt special to me, because I felt like I was experiencing something that I never thought would happen in my lifetime. Seriously, I figured it would be like after Vince McMahon's time, probably to third generation, fourth generation before we see, wrestling really reach this level. Kudos to WWE for letting the women have this moment. They could have easily went with Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre as the closer. They could have easily just sat there and gave us that whole co-main event like they did before. I forgot. It was a match that the fans wanted to be main event, but WWE wanted a different match to be main event. So they sat there and did this whole multiple main events. They had like 3 matches that was all quote unquote main event, even though it wasn't the closer. I forgot what WrestleMania that was. But I definitely remembered it being a WrestleMania of that nature. And it was a very special moment that we got to experience that. And I felt like, it was kind of my Kofi Mania because I didn't think we would have a moment like that, and for the fans to be so supportive of it. And no, it wasn't built up to be a main event, which was a shame because obviously, as we saw in this match, the women had the talent to make it a very good show. A lot of people said that it was one of the best main events in WrestleMania. Definitely of recent, I would say. It was a lot. This match was a lot better than the triple threat women's match, especially how, the ending wasn't as smooth as I would have liked it to be, but oh my gosh, this was hard hitting. Especially Bianca hitting Sasha Banks with her hair. She carried Sasha Banks up the steps. Sasha Banks doing that suicide dive. This match had the crowd going. Um, this was a very good main event. My goodness. Um, Definitely was worth as far as closing the show. There was a lot of people who weren't really 100% on board with Bianca Belair, and I understand why. I wasn't 100% on board with Bianca Belair when she was in NXT. I always felt like she was missing something. I knew she had the it factor, but I always felt like she was missing something. And when she came onto the main roster and she turned face, and then you hear her backstory and stuff like that, I figured the biggest thing that was missing is the fact that she is a naturally nice person, and it felt like it was difficult for her to come off as a heel. Her personality and everything like that, and the type of person who she is, outside the gimmick, it helped her connect more to the gimmick if she was a face, because of all the diversity that she went through and things like that. And she's good in the ring. We saw that at WrestleMania. She's very good in the ring, and definitely showing that, we can see it from here. My only thing with her is her promo. Um, Definitely needs better on the promo work. I don't know. It's a little bit of a disconnect for me, because she sounds like somewhat generic, I should say. Um, but I think it'll get better in time, because she wasn't in NXT for too long before she came up on the main roster. And whereas on NXT, it's more wrestling than it is promo and character work. I think with time that she'll get better as far as with promo and character work. But this was such a good moment to close the show. Of course, because they had that hour delay, you saw that they cut the show pretty quickly after Bianca Belair won. You see her family. I kind of figured it was her dad that almost went over the damn barricade because he was jumping so high in excitement. Um, and she was so happy. They showed footage of afterwards. Montez Ford got into the ring and celebrated with her, which I wish that we could have saw, because everybody kind of knows that they're married, and I wish we could have saw that. Um, and then of course Michael Cole messing up the call for her to win by saying that Sasha kicked out. That's why we gotta pay attention to what's going on. uh, Stuff like that wouldn't happen. But yeah, it was a very good night one. Overall, I would give it a B plus. The women's tag team turmoil, um, I would give it A minus. I'll say A minus. The women's tag team turmoil wasn't as good, but it did get better in the end when it was Natty, Tamina, and the Riot Squad in there. So going into night two wasn't as good. Like I had said before, if they had just did better with the finishes, night two would probably be just as good as night one. And starting out, we had Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton. Um, Randy Orton coming out with the white, which I was pretty shocked by. I kind of figured he was going to lose or something, because he was wearing white. Bray Wyatt, because I was wondering, my biggest question was how this whole burnt Bray Wyatt was going to transform in the ring, and our thoughts were answered, because we see Bray Wyatt in the back. It kind of reminded me of the Weeknd's halftime performance with him standing with the LED boards around him, and you see him walking towards the screen, and then suddenly he transforms into the regular Bray Wyatt. Okay, whatever. He's a supernatural figure. We're going with that. Okay. We've seen this plenty of times with The Undertaker getting buried alive and coming out and stuff like that. Getting set on fire in a casket and he is miraculously okay. You've seen it plenty of times before. Whatever. Okay, I'll take it. Because we're back at, because it was a lot more questions had he had stayed as burnt Bray Wyatt than if he had just came back as as burnt Fiend, I should say, versus regular Fiend. I have to say, Bray Wyatt's entrance, the Fiend's entrance, is one of my favorite entrances I've seen. We've seen Alexa Bliss come out in her kind of like she was kind of mixed between that uh, psychotic Alexa Bliss and the playful Alexa Bliss, and we see the big Jack in the Box, and she starts turning it, and then the lights go down, and then the Fiend's music starts to play, and she's still turning it, and we see Bray Wyatt come up out of the Jack in the Box, and I was like, that is fucking cool. The crowd, of course, was all into it and everything like that. We saw Bray Wyatt come out of a box-like structure, like Michael Cole was saying. It was a Jack in the Box. I'm guessing he hasn't seen one of those before, but it was very cool. This match was very interesting. It was good. It was good until we got to the end. We see Alexa Bliss sitting on top of the Jack in the Box, and she looked very Sister Abigail like, and she had the black stuff coming off her face, and we see Bray Wyatt like, she was holding out her hand, and we see the Fiend. I keep saying Bray Wyatt. We see the Fiend reacting to her and holding out his hand to go towards her. And, that's when Randy Orton turned and, did an RKO and 1, 2, 3. Which, and the reason I have an issue with that, because normally we've seen Bray Wyatt, take, I don't know how many types of finishes, and he gets back up like it's nothing. And so I was a little disappointed that we got that many damn that we only got one RKO and he was down for the count. I wish that, we would got something more dramatic to show like, yeah, it wasn't as easy to take down the Fiend. I don't mind Alexa Bliss being that distraction for Bray Wyatt to lose. I just wish that we could have done something more with that. Bray Wyatt losing off of one RKO didn't make too much sense with me. And then we see the Fiend pop up, and he's obviously looking upset with Alexa Bliss, and then we see the lights go down, and then they both disappear. So it was the theory that she is working with a more dynamic in the person, and people were thinking it was either Aleister Black or Bo Dallas. But unfortunately, it's not Bo Dallas. But I would give that. I would have given it a B, but I'm giving it a C plus because that was a stupid ending. The match was only for less than 6 minutes. So the hard-hitting match that we was going to get, we did not get. After that, we get the Women's Tag Team Championship match between Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler versus Natalya and Tamina. And Tamina got a big pop. This match could have been a lot better than it was. There was the spot where Nia Jax was getting on the top rope and Natty and Tamina were standing there forever waiting for her to get to the top rope. Tamina tried to go for her Superfly Splash like she did the night before and she missed. And then I think it was it was Shayna Baszler who got the who did a finisher on Natalya, and then Natalya passed out, and so Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler retained their titles. And it was like, well, Tamina went through all that, got the big ass pop, probably one of the biggest moments of her career where she has, full fan support behind her, just for her to not win the titles. Like, I wouldn't have mind if she won the titles for like a week or something like that, but for her to at least win the titles, just for her to get her moment to shine, I was really hoping for that. And a lot of people was hoping for that too, but obviously we did not get that to happen. But yeah, the match could have went a lot better. I give that match a C. That match lasted longer than Randy Orton and the Fiend, I tell you that much. Next up we get Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn with Logan Paul. I appreciate the fact that Logan Paul was ringside and didn't do anything or interfere in the match. Of course, we were all waiting for, of course we knew that Logan Paul was going to get attacked by either Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn. Ended up being Kevin Owens with a stunner with a lot of fan support. Very hard hitting. Definitely forgot how great their matches can be, how good their feuds are. This match didn't last for too long, but this was a pretty good match. It was pretty hard hitting. I gave this match an A, because it ended. I mean, Kevin Owens winning the match. Logan Paul coming in to congratulate both men on a good job. He went over to Kevin Owens and started saying, good job, good job, good job. And this Sami Zayn getting upset. And then Logan Paul pushes Sami Zayn down. Then he goes and celebrates with Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is looking at his hand like, who the F are you touching, bro? And then gives Logan Paul a stunner with a lot of crowd cheer. It was a pretty good match. Next up, we had Sheamus versus Riddle. This is for the United States Championship. A lot of these matches really didn't last for that long. Not a lot of matches in both nights lasted more than 20 minutes, except for the triple threat match. A lot of matches were 15 minutes or less. So the night was moving along pretty quickly. But on top of that, it was still good matches. For Sheamus versus Riddle, there was a couple of botches. Sheamus tried to go for the white noise from the rope, the top rope, and he couldn't really stand on the top rope right, which I saw was coming. And he had to kind of jumped down, and then he went for the white noise on the mat. First of all, the ending was great. Pretty hard hitting. Riddle is good in the ring. He is. It's just this stupid bro gimmick that I do not like. Because I feel like he's going to be stuck in a box, because he's good in the ring, but he will not be taken seriously because of the silliness stuff that's going on. Like, I don't see him, like, I know he wants to go against like Brock Lesnar and stuff like that, but I don't really see like a good feud coming out of that. I mean, like, we know of the crap how much crap he talks as far as Brock Lesnar and Goldberg, but I don't really see Riddle actually being taken seriously in a feud against them. In the end, Riddle went to go for it was like a springboard moonsault, and Sheamus went for the bro kick to counter it, and obviously he kicked Riddle square in the face, because I don't know how you pull that spot off without getting hit. Obviously, he got hit because Riddle started bleeding from his mouth. Sheamus goes for the pin, 1, 2, 3, and Sheamus is now the United States champion. And very interesting on where we're going to go from here. I'm not mad of Sheamus winning the United States Championship. Because I really don't get real nowadays. After that, we get the Nigerian drum fight for the WWE Intercontinental Championship. Apollo Crews versus Big E. We had Big E come out with Wale to do his entrance. And first of all, we had Riddle. For Riddle, we had fucking pigeons with eye patches and pirate hats on, which I still don't get the bird connection to Riddle. Like, is it because birds fly high and he's high all the time? Like, I don't get the connection that we're making with them. First of all, WWE missed a big opportunity for Apollo Crews to come out with a full, like, and I said this for Roman Reigns too, but we definitely missed the opportunity for Apollo Crews to get a special entrance. But, you know, whatever. This was a good fight. I thought that the Nigerian drum fight would be something different, but it was basically a hardcore match with kendo sticks and was it chairs involved? It was like with kendo sticks and there was drums around the ring and stuff like that. I when I heard Nigerian drum fight, I thought it would be a bunch of people around the ring beating on drums while they're wrestling. I mean, they didn't really explain what it was, and from what I saw on Twitter, not a lot of people knew what the Nigerian drum fight was going to be. But it was basically a hardcore match with drums around the ring, kendo sticks and stuff like that. This was a hard-hitting match. First of all, Big E, he always does this scary spot where he does the spear through the ropes, and a lot of times he either overshoots himself and he like looks like he took his head off, but he did the spear through the ropes. We got the appearance of Daba Kato, I think his name was, formerly from Retribution. He is now teaming up with Apollo Crews. Can't wait to see what's his name going to be. Is he going to keep the same name, or they're going to change his name as well? And is he going to have an accent? Because WWE wants us to forget the fact that Raw Underground happened. So let's erase that from the memory books. I would love to see was he? No. He wasn't in Retribution. Why am I'm thinking of the wrong freaking person. But no, I was wondering who, if they changed his name or anything like that. And if they did, then I definitely missed it because I wasn't really paying too much attention. But yeah, he came from Raw Underground, and we were, we're just supposed to erase that from our minds, as to who he was. So, whatever, we'll take it. If that's the narrative you want us to go through, that's fine. But Apollo Crews, the real African American, he has a sidekick with him now, which makes sense. He definitely should have a sidekick if he is supposed to be the Nigerian prince, and that he comes from a family of kings and stuff like that. Oh, and how his was it his grandfather or his uncle had like 23 wives or something like that? Okay. So after that we had Rhea Ripley versus Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship. The crowd wasn't into this match. Truthfully, the chemistry wasn't there between Rhea Ripley and Asuka. I'm not quite sure why, if it was like just a bunch of miscommunication or the fact that Rhea Ripley kind of got thrown into the matchup, that they really didn't have enough time to really develop a match out of this. But this was definitely one of the weaker matches, especially with them having to kind of follow up with such a great main event match between Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. For this to be the quote unquote fight for the bigger women's title, this definitely didn't really deliver. Rhea Ripley won the title, which I kind of figured was going to happen because they really didn't have anything to do with Asuka. And Asuka wasn't really treated as well as champion since she became champion. Whenever she is champion, WWE just kind of forgets about her. And then she just goes off into the darkness for quite a certain amount of time. But Rhea Ripley winning the title was pretty exciting because now and everybody started tweeting out the picture. The three single female champions between WWE and NXT were all featured in the picture, and the top women in WWE are from NXT, which is pretty exciting. You know, the future is here type of situation. And that the winner and runner-up both won the title at WrestleMania, which was pretty good. So after that, we had the triple threat match, Roman Reigns versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan. At first, we had Jey Uso who interfered, but then he was taken out. This was hard-hitting. Kudos to all three men. I figured that either man was going to win. I figured it was a triple threat match because Roman was going to not win the title, but I was definitely surprised. There was a double spear between Edge and Roman Reigns that laid both of them out. Then there was this great spot where we had Roman Reigns was in the crossface, and then we see Daniel Bryan gets into the ring, not to stop the submission, but then he went and grabbed Roman Reigns' other arm and puts him in the yes lock. And I think there was the spot where I forgot what Edge put. I think it was a chair or something like that. He put over Roman Reigns' face when he was doing the submission too. That was a great spot with both men doing the submission on Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns able to, like, not tap out definitely gives power. And I said this on Twitter, WWE really missed a chance for Roman Reigns to come out with, like, a welcome to America type of entrance. I mean, if he's going to be the tribal chief, I mean, they came out with delays and things like that, but they definitely could have done a lot more for him to be the tribal chief. Like, give us the asshole type of entrance, you know, the over the top type of shit. So we can sit there and say, you know what? That's a bad motherfucker. And Paul Heyman's still, you know, staring a laser through Roman Reigns' head while they're walking to the ring. Like, I couldn't believe it. If you watch it back, Paul Heyman was staring at Roman Reigns pretty much the whole walk down. And that's a long ass ramp. And he was staring a motherfucking hole in the tribal chief's back of the head. I mean, oh my goodness. Get you someone who stares at you like that. I think Pornhub tweeted out, was it Pornhub? I think it was Pornhub that tweeted out for you to get someone who looks at you like Paul Heyman looks at Roman Reigns. So if the hub is sitting there saying something like that, definitely get you somebody who looks at you the way that Paul Heyman looks at Roman Reigns. That should be on everyone's bucket list. You know, put that down and hopefully you can check that off. But yeah, this was such a good match. Roman Reigns and I think it was Roman Reigns first doing the concerto or something like that. Concerto that he did to Edge and Edge and Daniel Bryan. I think Edge did it first with Daniel Bryan, which was crazy because, you know, he has the head issues. And then there was the spot where Roman Reigns, I think it was Edge who did the spear, then he went for the pin, and then Daniel Bryan pulled the ref out of the ring. But all in all, it was Roman Reigns who won the match, which I was pretty surprised about, but I'm not that upset that he won the match. But this was a very good match, first of all. Um, Roman Reigns doing the concerto on Edge, and then he laid Edge body across Daniel Bryan, and then he pinned both of them at the fucking same time, so that we cannot say that he only defeated one person. No, he pinned both people. Um, like I said, it was a very good match. Then we got the Raw after Mania afterwards, which wasn't that good. Without fans, I would have to say Raw after Mania does not live up to its potential. But as far as the main event, Roman Reigns, Edge, and Daniel Bryan, I definitely give that match an A. There was a pretty good, it was a pretty good main event. But all in all, WrestleMania was pretty good. Um, I did get a chance to check out NXT. I saw a little bit of AEW and I saw Raw after Mania. A lot of it was kind of like in the background, quote unquote. We didn't get a lot of call ups. We saw the Viking Raiders return, and for some reason, I don't know why I thought like this. I thought they were coming back as their original gimmick as the War Raiders. Um, but no, we didn't, because I don't know why I thought that I don't know why I thought they were coming back as the War Raiders, but no, War Machine. Well, I'm thinking War Raiders. No, they were the War Raiders. Yeah. I don't know why I thought they were coming back as the War Raiders. I don't know. It's just the way that the music came on, and I thought that they were going back to their original gimmick, but they didn't. They're still the Viking Raiders. Not the biggest fan of the new guy who is commentating. He kind of reminds me of someone who like calls for college for like college games or something like that. I don't know. He's not very authentic. Maybe it'll maybe give we have to give it time or something for us to like kind of get used to it, because we're kind of used to Tom Phillips, or we're used to Michael Cole or something like that. Um, but all in all, not too shabby. That was a really good WrestleMania. I just really hope that they keep the same two nights that they have been doing for the past 2 years. I have like a big part of me wants to go to Dallas next year, because I feel like Undertaker is going to get inducted since it's in Texas, and then I can go to the AT&T Stadium like I always wanted to. Um, but I want to go to the LA Mania because it's in LA, and I know I can't do both because the way my checking account is set up, and that's a Kevin Hart joke if you didn't get that. But I really hope they keep it for the 2 night setup. That's pretty good. But I think Undertaker is going to get inducted next year for the Hall of Fame, and I highly doubt they're going to do it for LA. I pretty much figured they didn't do it this year because of the fans. They want to do it when the fans come back, which obviously makes so much sense. But we'll see. Um, I might be crazy enough to try to go the next year if Undertaker is announced that he's being inducted. Maybe I'll go to the Raw after Mania or something, or try to get tickets for like the Hall of Fame and just stay at Dallas for a few days or something. I don't know. We will have to see what happens come January. But, all in all, it was a very good WrestleMania. Very enjoyable. I love WrestleMania, Um, Royal Rumble is my favorite pay-per-view event because of all the surprises and stuff like that. But WrestleMania always have a special moment in my heart. Um, because it normally lands around the birthday weekend, and it's a big extravaganza for WrestleMania. It's, we get the Raw after Mania and stuff like that, which is always crazy, except for this year. Um, but it's very good, though, to have fans back, to hear the fans chant, boo, and seeing people stand up, even though they weren't wearing masks. But to see the fans, just a live audience, just enjoying the show, it makes the matches so much better when you hear fans cheer and pop for things and stuff like that. It gets you into the match as well, especially when the crowd is very very animated. But that's it for the WrestleBread podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Let me give a few shout outs. Shout out to Julian Rob Bates from Wrestling Court Podcast and UnturnedMinds.com. Keita and Jay from the Keita and Jay Show. Chris from We Talk Next Podcast, which is featured on the Keita and Jay Show. Nando and Larry from Half K Podcast. Devin and Hafiz from Clark Street Wrestling. And also shout out to Dirty Hills Podcast, Straight Talk Wrestling Podcast, Powerbomb Jitsu as well. Coming up next week, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled program where I will be recapping everything that happened on Raw, NXT, and AEW, especially now the NXT is on Tuesdays. I didn't see the ratings. I heard that AEW was a little bit higher in their ratings, but still, don't talk to me until you hit 1 million consistently. I figure it may have been an increase because Mike Tyson was featured on AEW last night, but let me see how they do on just a regular episode without Mike Tyson showing up and Snoop Dogg showing up and all this other stuff. Let me see those type of numbers. I heard that NXT went down, which I'm not surprised. It's not that many people who are watching wrestling on like that between AEW and NXT anyway. So unless they turn around with like a hell of a lot of people, I don't really see the quote unquote wars continuing. But it is a lot easier to watch NXT on Tuesdays and watch AEW on Wednesdays. That I'm not trying to watch both shows and then my eyes start feeling crooked like Shawn Michaels. That I'm able to actually give something my attention, or at least enough attention while I was playing in the background while I'm doing something, and then to actually watch it. It'll be days where I'll catch NXT or Raw on Hulu. Can't really catch AEW like that because Tony Khan and company love to go after, especially the streamers who try to stream it for the rest of us who don't have cable and don't feel like paying $200 just for 2 channels. But yeah, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled program. You can hop on Twitter and follow me at JD Talks. That's JAYDE Talks. And you can follow the podcast at WrestleBread as well. Leave a review. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you feel about WrestleMania. Are you excited for what's coming up in the next couple of weeks? It was very cool to see the at NXT when there was a celebration with Raquel Gonzalez, and we saw Rhea Ripley come out, and then we saw Bianca Belair come out, and they all came out to celebrate the fact that all 3 of them were champions, and they recreated the picture that everyone kept tweeting about with them as well. And then we saw Indy Hartwell get quote unquote kidnapped by Dexter Lumis, and I made the joke on Twitter if Indy Hartwell purposely got herself kidnapped so she could have alone time with Dexter Lumis. If Dexter Lumis comes back and he's talking, especially if he's talking like William Regal, we know why. We will definitely know why. The Indy put that thing on him. So if he comes back talking very proper English, then we know that she did the thing. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you felt about NXT and WWE and all that other good stuff. And thank you so much for listening, and until next time, guys, peace.